Your company will fall apart if you don't get an ongoing stream of leads. So the question is really, how do you do that? Google search marketing has been my business's bread and butter for over 15 years. It's been a highly effective approach to bringing in qualified leads. Understanding how search works does require some study, however. While you can bring in a lot of qualified leads by writing articles, you have to know how to focus and structure your content to have any hope of being successful. That's why I wanted to talk to Ernesto at Structural SEO. Ernesto is what we call an SEO, or search engine optimization expert. He specializes in helping companies structure their content and websites to succeed on Google when getting to the first page of the Google search results. And the top page is really where you need to be to have the flow of leads that your business needs. Today, we take a big step back to see search marketing from a big picture perspective. There's a lot to internalize when it comes to writing articles to bring in customers, but you have to have a big picture understanding of how the pieces fit together before you can excel. We also talk about artificial intelligence and where it should fit into your content creation process. Get this wrong, and not only will you fail to get results, but you could irreparably damage your website. With that, welcome to Member Sherpa's Basecamp. Hey Ernesto, how's it going?
Good man, how are you?
Great to talk to you. Right off the bat, why would somebody want to put effort into search marketing versus other sorts of marketing?
I think paid advertising is getting more expensive every day, and it has been for a very, very long time. It is just the natural trend. And even though SEO isn't as easy as it was years back, it doesn't get more expensive every day. It sort of actually gets cheaper in a sense because we've got all these new tools that now, before you needed to hire, like a real big team or a big agency or something like that to do some things that now a single person can do if they know what they're doing. I still think it's quite a good way to get into marketing. It's not as expensive as the other ones. The only problem is it takes a little while.
Okay, fair enough. So for somebody who's maybe just started their business, or they just launched something, it's had some success and they want to scale it, what are the five key things that they really have to keep in mind if they want to go down the search marketing route?
I think because search marketing is like a long play or not like a next day thing, you got to be sure that you're in the right industry or niche, how like that what you're doing is what you're going to be doing for a while, because there's no point in saying, okay, I'm going to invest in this marketing channel, do all this work that I'm expecting to receive, returns in the near future, but not right now. You can't be changing goalposts. Like you got to know that you're targeting what's going to stick. So if you're still figuring out what you're doing and you're not sure this is the thing, I would sort of stay a little bit away from it or just take it with more caution. But if you know this is what you're doing, then it's fine. Like it's a good thing to do. Then the second thing I would say is do not expect overnight success. Like we sort of already mentioned this, but it depends on the niche and the industry and what you're trying to do, really. The budget you have, the time you have, the resources is how quickly you're going to be able to get those results. And also sort of how Google behaves. There's always a bit of uncertainty. I think you got to understand that it's not something that's going to pop up today, tomorrow, or next week. Like you have to wait a little bit. How much really depends on what you're doing, but you should see signs of progress as you work. And then the other three things, I would summarize it as the most important thing is to publish the work. You can spend a lot of time planning and thinking about things. If the work isn't published on the website, if it isn't live, if people can't see it, can't read it and understand it, then it's worth nothing. So the sooner you get it up there, the better. Sometimes too much planning, like, yeah, you obviously need that, but you also need to see what sticks and what Google likes. So you got to put things out there, see what happens. And sometimes it's better to sort of respond to that than to spend a whole bunch of time and not do anything.
Okay, fair enough. So I guess, if we're looking at speed, then probably doing something like, I don't know, social media marketing would be a lot faster than SEO.
Yeah, correct. So really depends on the industry. Some industries, Google Ads works really well. Other industries, Meta ads or anything social works better. It really, really depends on the industry, I think. And even Bing ads and stuff like that, because some people have like their default browser comes with Bing and they're not very tech savvy and they just leave it and use that. So that also works. So it really depends on the industry, but usually it's Google Ads or Bing or Meta Ads. When you're already bigger, you do both. But when you're starting, I would start with one of those and just pick the one that works best for your industry.
So here's the $1 million question. What is a keyword and why is it important?
Oh, let's just make it very simple. A keyword would be something that someone searches to try to find something, right? So if I sell shoes, the keyword is probably going to be, let's say I'm a hiking company and I sell hiking boots or something like that. And someone is going on a trip and they're going to do something, they're going to search probably something like hiking, waterproof hiking boots. So that would be a keyword, something that someone searches when they're expecting to find a service or a product or a membership, whatever that is. What's the second part of the question?
Why is it important?
It's really important because Google matches what people search with pages on a website. And it's not necessarily, you don't need one page for every keyword, but you need a page that is about that certain subject if you expect to win certain types of keywords, because Google has to match them. And the more exact match your page with that keyword is, most likely you'll do better for that exact match. And if the keyword changes a little bit, like there's one extra word or if there's a little word in between or something like that, your page might do better or worse depending on what it is. It really matters to know keywords and what people search, because then you know what type of page you need to create or that you even actually need to have that page on your website. So Google can match them, and then Google can match them. It can show it when people search for the keyword, which means people find you.
Okay, so let's say that somebody is searching top things to do in Hawaii on vacation. So you would take that search term that is the keyword, and then you would create a page for that.
Yes, basically. You would create a page called Top Things to Do in Hawaii. Maybe you say 10 things to do in top things to do in Hawaii on vacation, and you list the 10 things that would be great in Hawaii. Google, if it's able to read that page and you have the keyword maybe in the URL, maybe in the title of the page, and maybe throughout the page in the text, and then some headings that are like subtitles that are on the page, Google can sort of say, okay, this page is really about this topic. I think it's probably a good idea to show it when someone searches exactly for that word.
Okay, so what happens if you create a page but it's not focused on any particular keyword?
Google doesn't know what it's about. So if Google can't understand what a page is about, it's really going to struggle. It's not going to know which person is actually, that page is going to be helpful. And in doubt, Google will not show it. And there's probably, because the internet's big, many other websites that have a page that is more relevant than yours in Google's eyes about this subject. So it'll decide to show all those other pages instead of yours.
Hmm. Okay, so where would somebody find good keywords? So, obviously we're focusing on keywords here. Every page should be written on a keyword. Otherwise, Google can't find it. But where do we get the keywords in the first place?
We usually use basically software that helps us search for what people search, if that's the thing. So I think the first thing is you got to have a topic, right? Like my page is about a topic and it's going to be about something. Let's say this is something I provide. It's a product, it's a service, or it's a piece of content that I'm creating about a certain subject. So there's a question, maybe there's something to be answered. Like this page is the answer to something. It's the answer to someone searching for a question, looking for a product or a service. When I have that, you have to imagine, well, how would someone try to search for this page? So if I was trying to find this page on the internet, what would I would type for it to show up? And then you have an idea. You have an idea of how people might search for it. And then you go into these tools, put this keyword that you think, has to do with your page, and it'll spit out different ways that people search for those terms. And you'll be able to see that different versions of each of these keywords have different search volumes. So some people search way more in one way. Maybe a lot of people search things to do in Hawaii, and maybe a small amount of people search for top things to do in Hawaii. So like, okay, things to do in Hawaii might be better than top things to do in Hawaii. So you start to figure out which one has more search volume, and that's how you sort of narrow down on what keywords you need. Keep in mind that usually higher search volumes means more competition. More people are trying to win the keyword, which means you as a new website, it might be a little bit harder for Google to trust you with a competitive term than with a low competition term. So that's a bit of a different aspect to this, and you want to find that balance. Something that really describes what your page is about, that some people search for it, but it can't be, depending on your website, if it's new or if it's old, if it has authority or whatever, that's where you pick sort of that competition level and see what you sort of make the page about.
Okay, so in terms of tools, are there good free tools, or would you recommend paying for something? How would you go about, for people who are just getting into search marketing, would you pay for it? Would you go the free route? What tools would you use?
Um,
This is just for uncovering keywords.
yeah, I think I would use, so you can use Google itself to uncover keywords. You can put in Google what you think is your, the term, and you'll see the results, and you'll see what the websites that show up in the title is probably the keyword that they're optimizing from. So if you check out all the pages, there'll be certain words that are repeated in all the pages. That's probably the keyword that everyone's targeting. So you can sort of find it that way. You can also, Google does like an autocomplete where you can also try to find them there. And at the bottom, there's related searches, which you can also sort of find ideas there. So you can sort of use Google for that. Now you can use ChatGPT to get some ideas of keywords. It's not ideal, but it gives you an idea. And there's lots of free tools and paid ones. We sort of get used in the industry with using one or two of them because the data they provide isn't that precise. Like the same keyword in one software will say 100 searches a month, in the other one it would say 10 searches a month. It just depends on how these software groups them really into a single term or something. But I would go free, and what you can do is just use like the trial. Most of these things have a trial, so you can just do that.
Okay, so let's say we came up with a good list of 10 keywords. How would we determine whether a keyword is too competitive for us to win? So by win, I mean, coming in the first page of Google or near the top of the first page on Google. How do we know if the keyword's too hard?
I would say that the first check is if you search for that keyword just in Google and see the results. If all the results have that keyword sort of exact match in the title that you see, in the blue links that you see, it's going to be competitive because people are actively optimizing exactly for that term. So you might want to find a slight variation that's a little bit different, that no one's really optimizing as an exact match, but that is something that makes sense. It's something that someone might actually search for, but no one has really gone through that angle. And that's a way to do it without any tools. Now, tools help you with other metrics. They've got a difficulty metrics and all sorts of other metrics that we use to evaluate if a keyword is more competitive or not. So they'll say this one is difficulty 0, and this other keyword is difficulty 20. You know that one is way more competitive than the other. But if you don't have access to that, good old fashioned just Googling and seeing if people are already writing stuff specifically about it can help.
Okay, so we have our list of keywords. We whittled it down a little bit. We're going to write on one particular keyword. Now, how do we write on that? So how do we use that keyword on the page? Because, obviously if you're gonna do search marketing, you need a page to offer Google to be found on search. And that means writing a page, and the page should be focused on the keyword. But where do we put the keyword? Because, you can put it anywhere on the page, make the whole page the keyword. So how
Yeah.
do we go about doing that?
Yeah, so 70% of the work is going to be put it in the URL, put it in the search engine title or the meta title, however you want to call it. It's the title that appears in search engine results. So that when you Google something, what appears in those blue links, that's the title I'm talking about. So you put it there. You also put it on the title on the page, so the one that users see on the website. And then you want to sprinkle it throughout the content probably. And you also maybe want to include it in pages usually have this main title at the top and then subtitles. You also want to maybe include it there. And if there's variations of the keyword, meaning, as you said, like maybe things to do on Hawaii, on vacation, maybe when it includes on vacation, it's sort of a variation of that main term. well, including those two in those subtitles can also help and throughout the content. So that you got to understand that Google has to, it has to be fairly obvious that the page is about a subject. And the easiest way to do that is just have this keyword and related keywords throughout the page, but don't miss those spots, the ones I mentioned, because they're really important.
Okay, so you mentioned headings a couple times. How should we go about structuring the content on the page in terms of headings or bolding, underlining, bullet points, all that stuff? Is it important?
It's important. There are different signals that Google uses and headings. So you can think of headings as like an outline, really. So you can have like the main, that what we call the H1 heading is the title of the page that people see at the top of the page that we're talking about. Then we have subtitles. You could call those H2s, maybe like the biggest chunks within that page. But beneath them, there can be more subtitles within them, and those can be H3s, and you can keep on going until H6. So you sort of want to organize your content with these headings and how many you require on the page, and it sort of depends on what you're writing about. So for example, if we have that keyword that we were talking about, 10 things to do in Hawaii or something like that, that would be the title, right? And then probably you would have a numbered list of H2s. Each of those headings would be one of the things. So go to whatever beach would be heading H2, the first H2 on the page, and maybe the second H2 is going to be go to whatever restaurant, and then the third H2 is whatever. But that sort of, there's no hard rule for it. It sort of depends on the topic you're writing about. And the best guide is to look at what is already ranking, how they've structured the page, because Google already understands those pages are about this subject.
Okay, fair enough. So, in terms of, when I first started online way back, 15 years ago, I'm feeling old. When I started writing articles, a big thing was putting images on the page because, there was a theory that if you had an image, you're going to rank better. And so we were loading our articles up with images. Are images still important?
I would say they are. There's not a massive factor, but it's sort of weird to have an article or a page without an image. They also give you space for more signals. So the image file has a name where it can include the keyword. The alt tag that sort of describes what the image is about can include a keyword. If your competitors use lots of images or a certain amount of images, you sort of want to make your page similar to them. So Google makes it's more straightforward to understand that your page is similar to something they've already decided is about the topic. So yeah, they help. And if you would test a page with an image and without an image, I'm pretty sure that with images would probably do better as long as they're not huge and make the page really, really slow or something like that. It's just a normal image. It probably would work better.
In terms of links, do links matter?
Yeah, they do. You don't need them to win every keyword, but they are a big part of the equation.
If we're talking about Google, I think Google had built their whole system on links, at least initially back in the 1990s, the stone age of the internet. So are they as important today? And then how would we go about getting links to our page once it's written?
Okay, so two different questions. They are important. So Google, as you said, it was originally built on links. So the page with the most amount of backlinks would sort of win, or something along those lines. Then people, and there was also a time where if you just repeated the same keyword a gazillion times on the page, then you would also win it. But Google sort of understood these things were easy to game on their own. Like they had to do something because if it was all about throwing a bunch of links at a page or just putting the keyword a million times on the page or creating one page for every single keyword, then those results were very easy to manipulate. So over time, they've adapted their algorithm so it's a little bit more diverse. And now Google is basically based on diversity. And what that means is you do better if you have a little bit of every factor versus if you have a lot of just one. They sort of want to make it hard for you to game it. And you can there's a million ways to rank a page. You don't necessarily need links, but they help because it's a ranking factor, and if you have it, you're better off than if you don't. If you have the keyword in the important places of the page, you'll do better than if you don't. If you have all these other things around it, then you'll do better than if you don't. And that's why they are important, but they are not the single thing. And Google just turns them up and down in importance with different updates, depending on the update of the time. And if you want to have stable rankings and do well overall, you sort of want to tick all your big boxes, because then no matter how the algorithm changes, your rankings are sort of stable because you've hit every box. Doesn't matter which thing Google is liking more this time.
So where can we go and find a list of those ranking factors? Are they posted anywhere?
Not officially, really, but there's people who have done correlation, and correlation isn't causation, but it's a good indicator. And yeah, if you Google, I can't remember exactly the page, probably top SEO ranking factors. It's a website from this guy called Ted Kubitis, and he's found these ranking factors through correlation. And again, we don't know for sure that they are. We don't know how prominent they are every day in the algorithm, but we've got a big list of ranking factors. It's loads. There's really important ones, and you should sort of look at the most important ones and deal with those first.
Okay, so I guess we'll include that link in the show notes. Ted, I think, would be a little bit embarrassed for me to call him a Google scientist or a Google search algorithm scientist, but I think that's basically what they're doing is they're using the scientific process to really come up with some answers on how to rank in Google. Once you have the page up, you have the page written, and you think you've hit on a number of the ranking factors that it will take to rank the page. How do you go about interlinking it within the website? Well, what is interlinking, I guess, first of all? And then second, how would you link that up with other pages on your website? Should the homepage kind of link out to every article that you've written, or should you have a big long series of posts on the homepage? Yeah, what would you do here?
Yeah, let's quickly define linking. So you have your own website, and your website might have different pages. If one of your pages links to another one of your own pages, that is called an internal link, because it comes from within your same website, from one page of your website to another page of that same website. That is an internal link. A backlink is usually, or when we just say links, it's usually a different website linking to to a page on your website. So there's two different things, two different signals. You should try to use both. But internal links is something that really, really depends on you, because you don't need a different website to link back to you. So you sort of want to internal link pages that are similar or relevant or around the same topic, because it helps Google understand what each of those pages is about, and a little bit how your site is organized. And just, it just helps it also find other pages. So it does a whole lot of things for Google to understand what these are about, how you structure the website, how it's organized, what you talk about, and all those things. So going to the specifics, if you, for example, you have 300 articles on your website, you're not going to have them all on the homepage. You might just feature the latest ones, the latest 5 or something that you wrote, so Google can maybe find them easier because it sort of checks the homepage more than other pages. But you would want an easy way for Google to get to that article number 299 or something. No, let's say the 290 that isn't on the homepage, but it's sort of buried very deep. It's going to be able to find it somewhat soon. So that's how internal linking helps. Maybe it's not on the homepage, but maybe on the homepage there's a link to, let's say, another page, and maybe that page links to it. Something along those lines. So a good rule of thumb that we usually use is you should be able to get to every page on your site in about 3 clicks. So you're going to try to find a way to do that.
I've accessed websites before, used websites where they have all the content listed on the homepage. And then if I want to click through to see more article topics, you know, the homepage just expands and expands and expands. And the site gets really slow after a while. I guess for usability, it's also not a wise idea to put everything on the homepage. So you kind of have to have a blog section. Would you go blog or would you go pages? So, we've been talking about pages, writing a page for a keyword, but most people use WordPress. I think WordPress is pretty industry standard or pretty web standard still today, even with the number of platforms growing. On WordPress, they kind of split things up into pages and posts. Posts would be kind of blog posts, where pages, I guess, are something else. What would you use for article writing?
Yeah, so article or blogs, I use those terms sort of as the same. And when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about posts. So what in WordPress would be a post? That's sort of what a post is supposed to be on WordPress. So that's what I would use. You can use page, sort of, it would work anyway. Like it doesn't matter to Google really. It's just easier for managing if you do it that way. And pages, you can use them for more like service page, like when you describe a service, or your about us page is going to be a page, it's not going to be a post, things like that. Or maybe if you want to create let's say you have loads of posts about Hawaii and you want to create a page about Hawaii that you design in a certain way and you include links to all these posts about Hawaii. So maybe that's how you can use a page, then links to lots of posts about Hawaii. And that's how you also, that those are internal links, sort of helps with this thing that we've been talking about. So they serve different purposes, but usually you don't overcomplicate it. An article, a blog, that is a post. Everything else is a page.
Okay, fair enough. So, in terms of social media now, is social media what we would call a ranking factor? Does it help improve your rankings on Google? Like if you share your articles on social media, does it help improve your rankings on Google?
I think it does in sort of a non-direct way. It seems that every day it is more important to have. I see social media helping in three ways. It creates brand search. So it means people become aware that you exist and they may start seeing your brand name a lot. And they eventually might search for that brand name. And when they search for a brand name, they're searching for it is clear that this is something that exists and matters to people. And that has sort of become a ranking factor because Google has to try to define which sites are legit, which ones are real businesses that people care about, and they will sort of rank more prominently those than one that is, if it disappears tomorrow, no one would miss it. So someone searching for a specific brand name is exactly that. It's sort of a vouching, I want to find this specific website by name. I'm searching for it by name. So social media helps with that. And that is not just sharing your posts on social media. That is also the huge advantage of doing social media ads. It builds the brand search more than probably any other activity. Then also sharing it brings traffic to the page. It brings traffic to the page. Those might bring user signals that Google uses. We're not exactly sure about that. But Google will find you. They will navigate your site. That probably helps in some indirect way. And then it also seems to be a ranking factor if you have different, what do you call it, sources of traffic. So if your website only has traffic from search engines, that's a bit weird. Like a real business and something that matters probably has traffic from different sources. So it has traffic from social media, it has traffic from search engines, it had traffic from paid ads, it has, direct traffic when someone searches directly for the URL in the browser without even searching for it. So it seems that that sort of diversity, like diverse sources of traffic, is also somewhat of a ranking factor because websites that have those things haven't been hit in some updates that websites that didn't have them have. So it's sort of those things that are really hard to test and sort of make sure. But for some reason, people that have many sources of traffic, people that have brand search and all these things tend to do way better than people that don't.
Interesting. So search marketing should basically be just one element of what you're doing. Don't focus all your time on search marketing, on trying to rank well on Google. Do a bunch of stuff.
Yes, I would not advise it to be the only channel you have in general. Yeah. That's sort of a something that wasn't true a couple of years ago, but I would say that now it's really something. Worst case, if you do more stuff, you'll probably rank quicker and better than if you don't. I don't think I think you can still rank just with search marketing. Like it's sort of I've done it recently. There's no problem with it. I still see it. It is a little bit harder though. And you might not keep those wins for as long as before. Or if someone comes in that does more, they might take the spot. So it's sort of hard to say. Like there's never like a black and white thing in SEO, really. There's a lot of it depends, which is quite frustrating. But I would say if you can, try to do maybe two things instead of just one thing.
Okay, fair enough. Before I've basically just focused on writing articles, getting those articles out there, but I'm definitely broadening the top of my funnel these days. One thing that is blazing up the internet, it's all over the place these days, is artificial intelligence, AI. Should we just spend $20 on an AI writer and get it to write all our articles and then just post them on the site?
That would be very risky to just do that.
Very risky. How would that
Uh,
be risky?
it's risky if you do it because it's very tempting to do a lot of it. And you can end up, it's so easy to write articles. Like you don't even need to pay anything. You can just grab ChatGPT and the free version and just pump out 100 articles in a day. You could publish them. It will take you a while to get them all uploaded manually, but you could sort of just you can see how quickly you can just build loads of articles. And that is sort of proven to not work. It sort of works for a little while, then it just tanks. And your domain name, which means your website and your business sort of gets destroyed. There's not an easy recovery from that. So from that point of view, it's risky. Using AI as something to help you write better and speed up the process, but always making sure that there is some sort of, how do I say it? You've got to make sure that first the page is going to be somewhat helpful. I hate that word, but it's got to be on the topic. It has to offer something slightly different, hopefully, than every other search result. It has to be optimized so Google actually understands what the page is about. Not only human understands it, but Google understands it too. And usually you don't get all of those things by just pressing a click and spitting out a piece of content.
What about in the future? Because, AI is continually developing, supposedly over some time period. I don't know, could be next year for all we know. It will be able to do helpful content that would be virtually indistinguishable from humans. Would it be a good idea to shift to AI then? Or I guess one of the problems is also that we're trying to rank on Google. And what company do you know of that's top of the AI development race? Well, it's Google, right? So shouldn't they be able to find AI articles?
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. Let's talk about the second one first. I think there's no doubt that you can find AI content. I think it's an expensive process because you got to think that everything Google does, it does it at scale. It does it for billions of pages. So if they're going to bake something in the algorithm, um, it can't be expensive to do. Imagine it costs 1 cent to do. 1 cent times a billion pages is a lot of extra money every time they run this thing. So they'll have to put in, maybe they'll do something like we will only check for AI once a website reaches a certain level of traffic, because that's when more people like, sort of getting in touch with it, are consuming it. So only when it seems to be relevant because people see it actually, that's when we'll check it. And maybe that's when they'll evaluate if they care about it or not. We're still not sure about that. But I don't think it really matters if you use AI to write the content or not. I just think that the content needs to, for your business, satisfy what users want. But for Google, it just needs to give it what Google wants, which is usually a diverse amount of signals. And if your content has that, it should be okay. Like Google still ranks pages that are empty, just with schema, or it still ranks lorem ipsum, text that isn't even in English, and it still ranks it for medical keywords. So Google really is just counting stuff. And it's not as sophisticated as you think it is, from that point of view, because it's expensive to do other stuff.
Yeah, Google is basically just a big computer program and you can game it. And a lot of people do. I guess the problem is, after a while, the people that game the system, they can be discovered and have their websites, totally deranked, de-indexed, and Google can basically blacklist the URL. So if you're building a business based on this URL, you definitely don't want to go that route. Anyways, now in terms of Chat GPT, you mentioned it's becoming more and more popular. Does it pose a risk to Google search? And are people who are building out a lot of content today just building sunk assets? Are these articles not even going to be accessed by people anymore because, they steer their search queries or info queries to AI?
I think it's still helpful. Like, if you think about creating content for the pure sake of, like, there's content that is helpful for the people that you want to target as a business. You should have that content. Let's start with that, because we've got to remember that, okay, there's a business behind it. There's content that's probably helpful for the customers of this business, or this whatever we're talking about. So that content is still valuable, I think, whether it's found on Google or not. Like, it should be valuable content, however people get to it. But then the way that Google sort of seems to be using content now, it uses it to help understand what a website is about, and to sort of trust it that it's giving good content or good experience to users, because they sort of finish their search journey with this website. So it does sort of play a site-wide role beyond the pure role of that specific content. So for Google, I still think it's important. It sort of defines what a website is about. Like, if you say you're a plumber somewhere and you have one page, and then there's a competitor that has its plumbing page, but also has 50 articles all about plumbing and how to fix things. That page is way more about, that website as a whole is way more about plumbing than the other one. So that content does play a role there. And that is nothing to do with how many people find those individual posts and maybe find that plumbing company and do something about it. So it does play a sideway role, I think.
Well, I guess
And
part of
then,
the answer to that is that you really should be writing articles for your target market. So when people do land on your page, whether they're coming there through Google search or through social or YouTube, that you have a lot of high value content that they can access, and then you can present yourself as an expert.
yeah, which is sort of the basics of content marketing. That's where the whole thing started, really. And then even going to those searches that not a lot of people search, but they might be really helpful. Like, I would still write those. Like, and now it's easier to write than before because we've got all these tools that help us write faster. So I don't think it's like an asset that will lose value quickly over time. I think it's something it's valuable to have. And then AI still needs to get answers from somewhere. And currently it is taking them from all these websites. If it is using your content to train itself and to provide a specific answer about a subject, it is likely if to sort of maybe include you as a reference. Or if someone is searching for the best plumbing companies in wherever, or the best, I don't know, internet marketing memberships where I can learn how to do this thing, and if the AI trained on your content, it'll likely recommend you because you became a thing that it learned from. Like,
As kind of like a citation or a source link or something like that.
yeah, you would be the source. You would be the reference. And Google is, if you Google something now, you'll realize that there's something called AI overviews that usually pop up at the top if it's sort of a question sort of keyword or something like that. And it's got, for each answer it provides, that sometimes it's more than one, it provides sources, and those sources are websites and pages. If you didn't have those pages, you wouldn't show up there. So if you want to also evolve and make your business visible in all these new AI tools, which we don't know which one's going to win really, it's still the same way. They still, if you don't have the content, they won't find you.
Where do you think that an AI tool could be extremely helpful when you're producing content for Google or for search marketing, I should say?
It's very helpful. I use them every day. I
Which
use them every
one,
day.
which do you use and why would you recommend those?
I use a mix of, I mostly use ChatGPT. I also use Claude. They're sort of better for different things. And they're just really helpful you can create a custom GPT where you can train it on how you want it to write and how you want it to, the information you want it to use really. And it just speeds up the process a lot. Something that you would manually do, you can ask this thing to do through different prompts and steps. And you have like this sort of first draft that would take a lot of time before to you or a writer. Now you just have it quicker and cheaper. And then you can sort of improve it on your own. If you don't like something, you can just tweak it, add things, make sure everything it says is okay. We're still not in the process where you do one click and it's sort of the perfect article that you would want, at least for me. It's still like a multi-step process. And sometimes it does it better than others. So it's not like you can automate it and the quality control is going to like it's not going to be the same quality all the time. So that's why it's important to always look at it. But yeah, that they are extremely helpful.
So when you say that writing a bunch of articles based on or using AI to write a bunch of articles is risky, but then you go and you say that, doing a rough draft using AI is okay. Where does the risk come from? So how does Google look at AI content exactly? Because if you're writing a bunch of articles that are, supposedly risky because, you're just paying $20 to an AI writer and publishing them, at the same time, you can use a lot of tools that can be incredibly helpful. Where's the line for the risk? Yeah, how would you look at that?
I would think, I think the risk comes from having many low quality pages. Low quality pages means a page that doesn't get traffic. A page that doesn't get traffic usually is a page that Google doesn't understand exactly what it is about or doesn't think it is enough about this subject compared to competitor pages. So if you just spit something out and you don't put the care that it needs for it to be optimized and, be a good page about the subject, it'd probably be worse than competitor pages. So it's losing from that point of view. And if you have losing pages at scale and you publish them all at once, you're sort of spamming a little bit the index. And that's sort of the way that Google has, that's probably something that we do know with more certainty is people who have blasted lots of pages at once and they didn't do that before are the ones that have been hit theoretically by this AI algorithm issue. Like, if you are the New York Times or some huge publisher and you always publish 100 articles a day, you can go and probably publish 150 the next day, and that's all fine. It's sort of within your publication threshold. But if you're this random website that just showed up and you start publishing 100 articles a day, that's pretty weird. That doesn't look natural. It looks more spammy. Like there probably isn't oversight to any of that content. And I think Google took a bet saying websites that behave this way are probably just AI spam and that there's no oversight or there's nothing really. It's not helpful. And they're just guessing it's not helpful and they're sort of just crashing it. But if you have like maybe normal frequency rates, I don't know. This number is hard to come up with. If you're a new website, let's say, I don't know, 15 posts a month, 30 posts a month, something that would be reasonable, you're probably going to fly under the radar and you're going to be fine. Now, hopefully, your content is good. So if someone ever checks it, like there's a manual check of some sort, it looks good. Doesn't matter that it's AI, but hopefully it looks good, like it's not garbage. It's when I say it's risky, I think it's risky because it's easy to abuse. And I think Google is going to try to weed out the people who are abusing it. But the genie is sort of out of the bottle. Like people are going to use it anyway. I think they're going to put this sort of barriers, like sort of control points to try to, not go crazy with it. But yeah, that's why I think it's a risk if you do it wrong, but extremely helpful and valuable if you use these tools the right way and with some reason and not just go crazy with them.
Okay, so let's say that, somebody's a little bit risk adverse, they don't want to use AI. One of the risks of hiring a writer today is that you hire somebody and they just give you content that was produced by AI, or AI wrote half of the article and they didn't, write it, or maybe they edited the
Yeah.
AI content. So, how would you go about looking for a writer today if you just want genuine human content without AI?
I think that is going to be really hard every day. And you're going to have to find these hardcore writers that are more like, that they feel that they can do a better job and they sort of hate the idea of AI writing better than them, something like that, like someone really passionate. Probably like a freelancer that, doesn't have many clients or something like that. And you'll probably have to pay them enough so they can sort of keep on living that way or something like that. So it does come at a cost. I think I think a blend is okay. You can use AI for part of the process, not all of it. But yeah, it's a question that I don't think anyone can answer. Like we are not 100% sure what is going to happen with this. We do know that currently AI content ranks and it sticks when you don't abuse it. We know that human content ranks and it sticks also. We know that human and AI content get penalized for different reasons. So it's sort of one of those things that it's sort of hard to judge. What I don't think is AI is going to go anywhere. It's going to keep on getting better. It's going to keep being more prominent. It might become indistinguishable at some point, or at least too expensive to weed out from human written content. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there. I think over time, AI is always going to get into the process. The way that I see human writers, you have this automatic thing that gives you a quick draft. And now the human writer can use all their time and attention to make this article the best it can be. And they can put way more time into that versus doing the manual job that they had to do before was reading everything, making sure that this article had every single topic that is ranking on page number one and including everything and writing every sentence and every definition, which definitions are the same, doesn't matter if AI writes them or you write them, sort of thing. Um, and so they can use that base and then just build on top of it and make the article the best it can be. They have more time for that part than for the time-consuming manual work that AI can speed up. That's sort of how I use it. That's how we use it in the agency, but I think it's going to go that way.
Okay. So, I'm looking at our conversation so far. I think it's pretty high value stuff. I mean, there's a lot of really good quality insights, all focused on, I guess, content marketing or Google search marketing for beginners or for somebody who just launched a business, kind of a primer. Now, what if I wanted to take the transcript of this, package it up as an article, and put it on my website? Would that be wise? Is there an AI tool that I could use to do that? Should I publish it on my website as an article, or will it not really get search rankings? Yeah, what's your recommendation there?
I think transcripts are really hard to rank because a normal conversation doesn't have the sentence structure, the wording structure, the things that an optimized article usually works for. It is also like a very not a structured conversation. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, sometimes off topic, then back. So it's not like a page that would rank for a certain keyword from that point of view. And transcripts almost always have that issue.
Hmm.
Um, the way that I've made these things work is you create a page, you give it a title about a subject that is probably what was talked about in the conversation, and you sort of embed the video or something like that, but you have this main keyword in the URL, in the title, in maybe the bullet points or the summary of the show or something like that. So the page is really targeting the keyword, and this the show, whatever happens to be embedded there if people want to listen to the whole thing. But the transcript itself is a little bit messy, and that it's sort of against how Google works and understands pages.
Okay, so you call yourself, I guess, a search marketing expert or SEO, I guess would be kind of the shorthand for it. Is that the type of person that somebody with a new business should be hiring or maybe could look to hire if they want to really get some high quality help with their search marketing?
Yeah, I think it's always helpful to have guidance from someone who has made all the mistakes before and know what works and what doesn't, and can sort of speed up that time to success that compared to if you do it on your own. You've got to ask the question if it's the right channel for you to start with, because it might not be the best first marketing channel for you. You just got to be very aware of that. And also know that it usually takes some time to start. So maybe, you know, you hire someone for a consultation that will guide you and you do the heavy lifting in the beginning when things are just taking off. And it also depends on your budget. Like if you, let's say, for some reason you just sold a business and you got lots of cash in you and you can invest up front into something, well then yeah, it's probably a good idea because you'll get a return faster. But if you're starting a business, you don't have loads of cash, you just have time and resources, then you sort of got to put the work in, but you want to have some guidance with it. So you're not going to pay someone to do the work for you, but you'll do better, if you can have guidance. And maybe it's not hiring someone specifically, maybe it's being part of a membership where people help each other with this type of things or whatnot. You'll sort of understand the type of guidance you need. Maybe some general one from a membership is good, and then maybe now and then some one-on-one stuff that is really specifically aimed to you with from an expert can help. But you got to find sort of what works for your situation, really.
Okay, so let's say that somebody's at the stage where they feel that they could use some expert help. They could use some a consultation. They definitely want to go down the route of Google content marketing. What should they look for in an SEO or a consultant?
It's a good question because when you're new to something, it's not easy to judge the work or previously judge someone that you're going to hire. Like you don't know how to evaluate if they know what they're doing. And you probably have to go off a recommendation of someone that worked for someone else that you know. Or it is by understanding maybe what did it say, like the angle that they bring to it. I think the biggest problem in the SEO community is there are a lot of opinions, and those opinions are sort of very emotional and what people want to be true, and that's not necessarily what is true. So there's some people that sort of are a little bit more rigorous. They sort of look at more tests. So they try to use, as you mentioned before, the scientific method to try to identify what actually is a ranking factor, what actually works versus what isn't. Maybe they don't do the tests themselves, but they are in all the different test groups. So they have a range of tests that they can see if they're active or not. And they sort of get a feel in that. So someone that has opinions versus someone that is testing or really into testing and being part of this testing community, I think the testing guy will do way better than the other one
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's more facts. It's factual. It's not an opinion or what I want it to be true.
Yeah, I
Um, and
definitely agree with
then
that.
and then it's more experience. Like, does this person help other people? Done this before? The normal things that you would think in anyone you're going to get into business with, like, are there indications that they know what they're doing? Um, and then see if you feel, they're the right person for you. That gut feeling is also quite helpful. Like it sort of in mysterious ways does a little bit of the job. But I would see the type of SEO that they are. Um, have they helped people similar to you, maybe? That's a different thing. Or are they helping other people that they can translate that knowledge to your business? Um, and yeah, I think those are the most important things.
So any last recommendations for anybody who wants to start with content marketing or is maybe considering it?
Don't overcomplicate it. Find a topic that you think is helpful for your customer. Try to find a keyword that people are searching for. Build the page around it. See what happens. Improve over that. That's just get started. It's easy to get this, you know, analyze everything and not do anything. Um, just get started, see how it goes. You'll realize very quickly if you need help or not, what type of help you need. You'll have all these questions to list to get started. So I think just go for it, and then one step at a time. It's a little bit, it's a big subject, so you'll learn a lot by getting into it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for joining us.
You're welcome. My pleasure to be here.
We covered a lot today, but there are some key takeaways that you have to get. First, you should always be writing one article on one keyword. Focus is important. Next, while it's tempting to use AI to write all your content, doing so could permanently tank your website. And a Google blacklisting means that search marketing would be off the table for you in the future. Second, if you're going to use AI, use it to write an outline or a rough draft for you, and then heavily edit the content to ensure that it's accurate and reflects your unique voice and perspective. Finally, search marketing is a long term strategy, so you can't expect great results over the short term. It's always taken me a long time, years, to really ramp up search traffic of any of my sites. If you're going to start, you better be prepared to stick to it. After the call, Ernesto recommended a few tools that he uses or thinks would be great for people just starting out in SEO. Check in the show notes for the links. And no, they're not affiliate links. Our first tool is Ahrefs. This is really an enterprise level SEO tool that will help you uncover keywords, difficulty levels, and a lot more. Second, he recommends keyword insights for knowing which keywords should be targeted on the same page. Lastly, he recommends Page Optimizer Pro, which is a great tool for seeing what you need to put on the page in order to get your article to perform at its best. If you're interested in more marketing insights for small business, I recommend watching our interview with Omar Zenhom at $100 MBA.